there. It's good to be with you. All right. All right. How's the day been? Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I'm so happy to see all of you. See, when I look out, don't you agree? We know the future of our country's bright, right? Let's yes. Come on. Yes, it is. Okay.
So I am opening up for questions. That's correct, Erica. Is there someone I should call on first? You gave me that sheet. I'm sorry, I'm awestruck too. Okay. So we have Xavier Turk from Wiley College in Marshall, Texas. And he is virtual. Oh. So we look up there.
Hello. Am I good to speak?
Yes.
Okay, how are you guys doing? My name is Xavier Turk. I am a graduating senior here at Wiley College, majoring in mass communications, focused on journalism. I think my question would be, what is something that you feel like is not portrayed in the media enough when it comes to Black education or just being a student at a HBCU in today's age? What is not, to you, broadcast enough as a politician or someone that's in politics?
So that's a wonderful question. And I think that there's a short answer and a long answer. There's a whole lot that's not, I think, in the mainstream media that fully understands the depth and breadth of the American experience, everyone's American experience. When I first took the stage as a nominee to be vice president, I took the stage and I talked about my family and how my family is such a big part of what brought me to that stage. And this is now a national, it's not an international audience because we're talking about, right, who's going to be the next president, vice president of the United States. And so I went on about who family to me is. And then on the list of family to me, I said, my Divine Nine family. And there were people looking at each other, what's Divine Nine? And I thought to myself, you about to find out. But there you go. As a very quick, small example of my point. People who are covering who will be the next president and vice president of the United States, unfamiliar with the Divine Nine. So that's a quick example of a point, which is that, sadly, there is still a lot that we are counting on you all as leaders and journalists to help us do to continue to educate the people of our country and our world about who we are as Americans. Because, of course, the history, the presence, and the contribution of, going with my example, members of the Divine Nine, of which we both are, is very much a part of the history of our country. So I say that also to say that as a proud graduate of an HBCU, and as we all have that common experience, one of the blessings that I realize now so many years later that I can tell you already have figured out while you're still there is that you have a special responsibility because you have had the good fortune and blessing of being in an academic environment that in every way, from the walls that were constructed in your classrooms and why they were built, you have the unique ability to know that we are counting on you, that you represent the best of who we are, and that we are requiring you to lead. Because we have also learned in those places, if not in our own families or communities, that we stand on broad shoulders. Who imagined that we all right now would be having this conversation at the White House. Somebody gave me, Mayor, somebody gave me a T-shirt, and everyone here should be wearing it. And the T-shirt said, "I am my ancestors' wildest dream." All of you should be wearing that T-shirt too, right? But you have the experience of also learning that you will be in an environment that will not allow you to be anything less than the best. That you will be required to take full advantage of all those who want to nurture you and educate you and lift you up. And then you go out there and you remember you are never alone. Because most of you will be in rooms, and I'll speak for the two of us if I may. You will find yourselves many times in a room where you are the only one like you, who looks like you, who has had your life experience. And the other thing you learn at an HBCU is to remember, no, I come from people. There are a whole lot of me out there. And so being in that environment gives you the charge to have the confidence to then be in those rooms and never feel small and never feel alone and never be convinced that you're the only one like you and therefore alone. Because no, you come from and have a whole bunch of folks who walk into every one of those rooms with you, even if you can't see them at the moment. You must always feel and know that we're all present.
Thank you. So we're going to go to someone in the room, if that's okay, Erica? Or do you want me to stay on the screen? All right. Well, I'm going to follow the script. Kayla Foster, Russ College.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Foster. I'm a mass communications major here at Russ College. So my question actually goes kind of back to where we were earlier in discussion. And it's about how the Biden administration plans to ensure the continuity of our historical Black colleges and universities.
Well, by doing the work that we have been doing as an administration that we are particularly proud of, which includes ensuring that we put the financial resources into our HBCUs. So I think we may have had a discussion about the dollar amounts, and it's in the billions of dollars around what we need to do to invest. Back when I was in the Senate, actually, we also got a bill passed that put money into HBCUs around upgrading the infrastructure, because as we all know, so many of our schools are very old and need upgrade to literally the classrooms, the libraries, things like that. But also the work that we have been doing that has been focused on issues like student loan debt, because we know the disproportionate burden that our HBCU students carry on that issue. And then, you know, there is the whole thing about the ecosystem around an HBCU student that also requires support. And so there are many of our policies that relate to, for example, something I did yesterday at Bowie State, which was to announce what we are doing as an administration to bring down the mortgage insurance premiums, so for FHA loans, so for loans that low-income families can get to buy a home, and bringing down the cost of that even further. Because, of course, if we think about the next generation of HBCU students, if their parents have the ability to buy a home and build equity, that would make it just a little easier for maybe them to take a little equity out the home when their young, bright child says, I want to go to college, to help them pay for tuition. So there are things that we have done that have directly been focused on HBCUs, but things like that that are also about the ecosystem around an HBCU student. Thinking about the fact that I think it's something like over 60, maybe 70% of the people diagnosed with diabetes, or of African Americans, are diagnosed with diabetes. And for our seniors, bringing down the cost of insulin so it's capped at $35 a month, because otherwise so many of our seniors, I mean, raise your hand if you have somebody in your family who has diabetes. There you go, right? And so bringing down the cost of insulin every month to cap it at $35 a month for our seniors so that they don't have to choose between paying rent or buying food and buying the medication a doctor prescribes. So there are a lot of initiatives. And the point is to be able to see, and I would encourage you as journalists to always remind all of us to see people in their full selves, to see people in all the facets and nuances in which everyone lives. None of us is one-dimensional. And we should always require of our leaders in particular that they see people as whatever their profession is, as whatever their age is, as whatever their race is, as wherever they are geographically. Are they a parent? Are they a child? Are they a grandchild? Are they a foster child? Seeing people in the full relief of who they are. You know, in many old world cultures, and in particular in many African cultures, when you meet someone for the first time, the greeting is not, pleased to meet you. It is, I see you. I see you. And you as journalists have an incredible gift to require us as the people who read your work, who listen to your work, to see all the dimensions of the things you cover and the people you cover.
Right. Chloe Ryan Woolfolk from Norfolk State University. Where are you, Chloe? She has on pink. What does that mean?
My favorite color is just pink.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color.
Why, thank you. So my name is Chloe Ryan Woolfolk. I am a senior mass communications journalism major at the Norfolk State University, and I must say it's an honor to be here to representing my university. Yeah. So my question is, what is the administration doing to address racial inequalities and the impact of climate change?
That's a wonderful question, Chloe. So I've been doing a lot of work on the climate issue from years. Back when I was elected district attorney of San Francisco, I started one of the first environmental justice units of any DA's office in the country, and I'll tell you why. Because in San Francisco at the time, and I think still is the case, there's a community there called Bayview Hunters Point that has, at the time, and probably still does, an annual household income of $15,000. Predominantly black. And what we were seeing is that community was being treated like a dumping ground. And so we were seeing high rates of health outcomes, right, in that community. And I decided to take that on and deal with the polluters and the people who were doing this to make sure there was consequence and accountability for the harm that was being caused to that community. I'm describing what is referred to as an environmental justice issue. Because it's about equity, it's about fairness and the environment, right? And when I think about then anything that is about climate, we're talking about the environment. We're talking about extreme changes to the climate that manifest itself in a number of ways, including extreme weather events. Think from my home state of California, wildfires to hurricanes, tornadoes. Think about the climate issue in the context of what we need to do to deal with, for example, extreme heat and what that means in urban communities where there's only asphalt that just actually exasperates the heat effect and where there are no trees, and what that means in terms of the public health consequences of that. Think about it as the issue of lead pipes in places like Flint and other places around our country, and the babies of that community then drinking toxic water, which is having an impact on their learning ability. Think about where that in some of the worst air quality zones in our country are also low income and communities of color, and what that means in terms of high rates of asthma, which also means missed school to address those health concerns, think of it then in the context of, like, I like to think about a lot of things in the context of a Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. Always ask, is there a Venn diagram for this? I'm telling you, it's fascinating when you do. So Venn diagram, those three circles, right? So on this, the intersection between climate, extreme climate, right, which is going to be about, that's going to be also an intersection with human behaviors about greenhouse gas emissions, what we need to do around carbon capture, right? Intersection between that, public health, and then how we're thinking about in terms of the intersection between that and education. And if you want to add some more circles to the Venn diagram, the solutions also look like what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy. And that's about a whole new economy with a whole new set of jobs that are going to require engineers, and it's going to require people who are thinking about how to design in a way that accommodates climate adaptation and resilience. And therein lies some of the opportunities when we think about the solution to the problems, right? And then if you bring that all back in a way that we look at that Venn diagram and also think about principles that are about equity, who is suffering the most? Where then should we be putting in the resources? How should we be thinking about equity in terms of what should be equitable standards and the inequities on an issue like public health, education? Lead pipes, I'll give you an example of that on this point. So, water coming out of lead pipes. The communities that have been dealing with this have been, the grandmothers and grandfathers have been telling us for years. It's having an impact on the children, on the seniors. Okay. So one of the things about lead pipes that's interesting, lead was put in pipes all over the country. So it was not only in communities of color, poor communities. But here's the thing. If you have money, if you had equity in your home, you'd say there's lead in those pipes. I need to get rid of those pipes and replace them. And you would buy some new pipes. If you don't have the money to replace the pipes, if you are a renter, what ends up happening, right? We think about it in terms of the health consequences to the children living in that community and what that has meant in terms of what we have documented over generations. So all of those issues are issues that are relevant to how we should be thinking about equity, climate justice, environmental justice. But also I urge you guys, as you write and think about the future and how you're going to leapfrog into your role of leadership, really do start to take a look at what we are creating around a new economy, which is a clean energy economy. Because, by the way, the communications major, we're going to need you to know how to talk about this issue. We're going to need you to help us articulate why we need to put resources into the things that we just discussed. If you're studying HR, whole new industries are being created. We're going to need you to work there. It's not only about engineering and science. It's going to be about also thinking about all the construction that's going to happen. And so who's going to be doing that? Some of the best paid work is work that's about the building trades, where there are 4-year apprenticeships for people whose track may not be college. But in the apprenticeship, they get paid while they're going to school to learn a skill that is a highly skilled kind of work to build all the infrastructure. And what are you doing to think about how we inform the young people of our community for whom they don't want to go to college or that may not be their track? Inform them about labor unions and what labor unions do in terms of apprenticeship programs and what might be available for folks there, because when you're part of a labor union, then you'll be part of a whole group that will fight for your workplace safety and your benefits and your health care and your pension, right? So I would ask you, I know we're running out of time, but I would ask you we need you guys to lead. We need you to lead and to see what's coming. and to help deconstruct it so people can see themselves in the future and help people understand how they fit into that and the opportunities that are available. And I need your help to do that, because there are a lot of new opportunities opening up, and we want to make sure that people know that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and our last question is from Jalen Clinch from Florida Memorial University.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jalen Clinch. I'm from Florida Memorial University. I'm majoring in communications and public relations. First off, before I ask my question, I just want to say it's an honor to meet you guys. Thank you for everything that you do for our Black communities. My question is to you is, what is the administration doing to support small businesses and inspiring entrepreneurs like myself?
That's a wonderful question. So, access to capital. Access to capital. We do not lack for good ideas or ambition. But often, folks don't have access to capital to start a small business. I mean, you go back to, again, let's deconstruct all the issues. Home ownership. So allowing families to be able to afford to buy a home means they can build up equity so that one of their children may say, I want to go to an HBCU, I need help paying for tuition. The other child might say, and I want to start a small business, and I need some startup capital. See how these issues are all connected? So access to capital. And what we have been doing is, in particular, and I've been traveling around the country meeting with small businesses and talking with folks about it, increasing the money that we're putting into community banks. They're called CDFIs, and Community Development Financial Institutions. Because community banks are really well situated and designed to understand the needs of the community, see the talent in the community, and then invest in all of that. So as opposed to the big banks, right? The big banks, I've met so many small business owners who have told me, I went to a big bank because I had this idea to start a restaurant, a catering business. And I heard them use a term referring to me that I had never thought of and even heard before, unbankable, right? Because the model that they were thinking about didn't necessarily suit what big banks finance. But community banks understand, oh, you want to start this kind of restaurant in that neighborhood. Oh, there is a desire for that. Plus, as a community bank, we are going to actually also understand that we might need to give some assistance in terms of helping folks understand how the tax structure works when you start a small business so that you pay those taxes on time. Help people know how to keep their books, help people know how to manage their credit, help people know how to deal with employee payroll, right? So one of the things that we have been doing as an administration in support of small businesses is that, which is putting more resources into community banks and also putting more attention into what we need to do around financial literacy. That's another thing I'd ask you journalists, to really spend as much time as you can on, which is helping people to know the assets, that the resources that are available to them, to learn the skills that aren't natural if you've not been taught them before, which is how to manage your credit, how to maintain a good credit score, because if you have a bad credit score, that's going to mess up almost every other opportunity you want to have.
Including that credit card that they can get in college.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, watch out for that. That's exactly right. Right. That is something that is, it's seemingly small thing like teaching people financial literacy that can either set them up for success or just keep them down. Because once you get a bad credit score, it is so difficult to rehabilitate. But all of that is connected to small businesses, right? Which is we have so many good ideas and we want to encourage them, but we want to get people to know what they've got to do in other areas of their life to actually be able to then pursue their ambition around an idea and create a small business.
Let's give our Vice President a round of applause. Thank you, Madam Vice President. We are going to take a picture that I'm sure will be the Christmas card for a lot of families in this room.
But let me just, I'm going to close by saying this. Your voices are so important. You as journalists have such a unique skill, gift, and ability to really be a voice of, a voice for, so much that is important in our country. And so use your voices. Continue to use your voices, because we need you. And we need you to also, for your generation of leaders, talk about things like climate, right? Starting a small business. And know that your experience at this moment in time, you all just went through a pandemic and what that meant in terms of your experience with your educational process. We have so many young people and people of every generation in our country right now that are really battling with mental health and need to know they're not alone and know where to go for resources. Not to mention all that we already have talked about in terms of economic opportunities. But we need your help. Because as a presidential administration, we're going to only be able to be as effective as our ability to reach all the people who deserve to be seen and heard. And in that way, you all and what you do is so important to remind people that they are not alone and that there are resources available to help them. So with that, thank you.